Hi guys, thank you so much for being here today. We're very lucky to have this panel of experts with us here at South by Southwest, and we're going to be doing a live AMA to answer people's questions. So the first question that's come in, what is the most significant advance that's been made in the GMO field recently? I think that there's something that almost all of you guys can speak to in your area of expertise.
Okay, my name is Brian Scott. I'm a farmer from Indiana. We grow corn, soybeans, popcorn, and wheat. The most recent or significant thing I can think of is Dow AgroSciences' new Enlist program.
What's it called?
Enlist, with the product, the herbicide being Enlist Duo.
This is Enlist program.
Yeah, it's a corn, soybean, and cotton program. Adds another herbicide-tolerant trait to give farmers yet another tool to control weeds, expand their weed control program, and in my opinion, keep doing some conservation tillage and no-till and doing good by the soil.
Conservation, tillage, and what was the other thing you said?
No-till.
Allowing farmers to do right
By the soil.
by the soil. Awesome, and it's called Enlist. All right, fantastic. What about you?
Hi, Connie Diekman, registered dietitian. You know, I sit here thinking, what's the most significant thing in the nutrition field? And there's so many. I look at golden rice, which is a rice that now has vitamin A in it.
Golden rice.
Golden rice has vitamin A in it. It's going to be a great crop, a great food source for those people in third world countries who rely on rice but struggle immensely with vitamin A deficiency. I think about a coming oil that will have omega-3 fatty acid in it.
Which one?
Omega-3 fatty acid.
What is going to have
It's an oil. And what's significant nutritionally about that is omega-3 is predominantly found in fatty fish, something that unfortunately most of us don't consume enough of. So by biotechnology, being able to add, convert, put, whatever word you want to put in there, omega-3 in this oil, it now can be used in other products, allowing people to get the healthful benefits of omega-3 fatty acids. So those are just two, and the list really is very long.
So those. Amazing, thank you.
Can you guys all speak up a little bit?
Yeah,
Sure.
sorry.
Thank you very much.
What about you, Dan?
Hi, my name is Dan Randolph. I'm a scientist working for Dow AgroSciences. I didn't hear Brian's full response about Enlist, so I'd just like to probably echo what he had mentioned about the Enlist technology. It is a weed control system that includes a herbicide, trait technology, and stewardship. And I think that it provides...
That has a what type of technology?
It includes a trait technology, herbicide, and stewardship. And we believe that it's an important solution for farmers.
Okay, great. And then what about you, Cathy?
Cathy Enright. I'm a biochemist by training, but now I'm the executive director of the organization behind GMO Answers. So thanks everyone for participating in this Reddit. For me, it's the development of the first consumer-facing traits in the United States. We have coming online the non-browning apple, which has been developed by Okanagan Specialty Fruits, and
What
we
was
have
the name of the company?
Okanagan. And the non-browning lower acrylamide forming potato, which came out of Simplot. I think it's going to give consumers, for the first time, right up front in their produce section, the ability to know what a GMO looks like, and to touch it and feel it and taste it, and to decide for themselves whether the traits that have been incorporated into the apple and the potato, respectively, are something that they're going to find valuable. I think it's going to be a game changer with regard to how consumers feel about GMOs.
Can I add something to that, Victoria? Because I think Cathy made a great point on the apple. You know, as a dietitian, we know kids eat with their eyes first.
A dietitian.
And a brown apple is not appealing to a kid. I have 2 grandchildren, and I have seen the 2-year-old very quickly throw things away if it doesn't look nice. And I think the fact that now we can put a food on a child's plate, obviously adults too, but on a child's plate that looks eye-appealing is the first step in helping kids eat more fruits and vegetables.
To getting kids more fruits and vegetables. Great, thank you guys so much. The second question that I think all of you guys can weigh in on, what is your favorite GMO crop?
Okay, I guess as a farmer, from my perspective, and the crops I grow, probably has to be soybeans, the Roundup Ready, herbicide tolerance trait in soybeans.
Soybeans, so Roundup Ready.
That's been a big boon to weed control. We used to, I can remember, back before Roundup Ready soybeans came out, we were out there, we'd hit the field with tillage 3 times before the planter hit the ground to take care of winter annual weeds. We would be out in the summer, walking fields by hand, cutting weeds down, which by the time they're big enough you can find them and cut them, they've already done their damage. Roundup Ready came along, cut down our tillage program a lot, cut down that manual labor that's really wasn't doing a whole lot besides keeping from weeds going to seed and making your field look a little bit prettier. And so these additional traits that give me more management tools as a farmer allow me to do things with less inputs and do better for the environment by using less fuel, less soil compaction, less erosion.
To do better for the environment. Less fuel, less erosion, and
yeah, what did I say?
less fuel, less erosion,
less inputs,
and fewer inputs. Amazing. Connie, what's your favorite GMO crop?
This is a really hard one because as a dietitian, you know, all foods are good foods. So it's really difficult. I guess as I sit here and think about it, probably the thing that I would say, and this is broader than a food, but is the fact that biotechnology is allowing improvements in plants that will increase the ability for us to feed our growing population. Without some of the biotechnology, our crop production is significantly impacted. And obviously, as we look at the population growing, that's a nutritional challenge.
And as we look at the population growing, that's quite a nutritional challenge. What about you, Dan?
Pardon me. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite. I'm a scientist, and I'm just interested in the genetics. I'm amazed by the technology and the potential that it has to provide multiple solutions. Herbicide tolerance, insect resistance. One thing that I'm particularly interested in is disease resistance.
Herbicide tolerance. What was the other thing?
Insect resistance.
Insect resistance.
Disease resistance, drought tolerance. I just feel like the GMO technology has a lot to offer, and all of it has good potential.
And all of it has good potential. And what about you, Cathy?
Thanks. I have a very singular favorite, and that's the insect-resistant rainbow papaya in Hawaii.
It's the insect-resistant...
virus-resistant. Did I say insect?
Virus-resistant
I'm sorry.
rainbow papaya, you said?
Rainbow papaya, right. It's resistant to the papaya ring spot virus.
All right, let me get that. It's resistant to
the papaya ring spot virus.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It is a thing. And it actually... the technology enabled us to save the U.S. papaya industry. This is a virus that was essentially island hopping, if you will, going with people and boats and insects and weather. And this virus has been a problem for 80 years in Hawaii. And finally, the growers were on Kuna and the Big Island right? It was when the virus struck them. They'd moved and moved to the Big Island, and the virus struck there too. But within just a few years, scientists and the Department of Agriculture were able to work together to develop a papaya variety, rainbow variety, that was resistant to the virus. And so I love it because it's for farmers. I am a huge advocate for agriculture. It enabled papaya farmers in Hawaii to remain viable, but not just biotech farmers. Also organic farmers, because it's the perfect example of coexistence in biotech, because the papayas that are GM, that are resistant to the ring spot virus, are so effective, right, in resisting that virus. What happens in Hawaii is that the organic papayas are planted in the middle of the biotech papaya around it. So that outside buffer, if you will, acts as a sink for the virus load, enabling the organic farmers to produce pretty effectively without GMO or without biotech, to also produce a crop. So it's great for all farmers, conventional, biotech, organic. And I love it when farmers get a tool in their hands that enables them to maintain their economic viability.
Farmers are able to have a tool in their hands that enables their economic viability. Thank you so much, guys. I'm just going to save that answer real quickly and refresh the page and see what else has come in. In your careers, what have you been most proud of, or what's your biggest regret? Give me 1 second. I'm just going to fix something that I saw in Cathy's answer. All right, cool. So what are you the most proud of?
Most proud of for me, let's see. After I graduated from college, I decided not to come back home to the farm.
After I graduated college.
I was gone for about 5.5 years and working in the real world, as they say, and came back to the family farm almost 6 years ago now, and I think I've really been able to come back as almost kind of an outsider, and we've been able to, maybe at my spurning a little bit, incorporate some more precision ag technology, push to have more no-till acres. We've started cover cropping and doing a lot more of these.
We've started doing more cover cropping?
Cover cropping, yeah. So we're planting a crop that's not a cash crop for us. It'll go in the fall after harvest, and we'll terminate it before planting the next spring. But it's all about soil health and nutrient management, water quality, and
it's all about soil health.
Yes.
And nutrient quality.
Water quality.
Water quality.
And it's just, those are things that I'm proud of we've been able to incorporate on our farm since I've come back in the last several years. And come back past several years.
Thank you, Brian. What about you, Connie? What are you the most proud of?
You know, I think the most proud of is I'm very much committed to communicate nutrition messages that are grounded in science. I feel that I avoid the trend, the fad, the how do you draw the numbers kind of answers, and communicate what does the science show us, which to me as a registered dietitian is extremely important, because the food we eat is the nourishment for our healthy bodies.
Because the food we eat is nourishment for our healthy bodies.
And keeping that science-based is the only way we're going to really maximize everybody's health.
Thank you. What about you, Dan?
Well, thanks for that question. I believe that every person deserves to lead a productive and fulfilled life. And
to lead a productive and what life?
And fulfilled life. And that starts with the most basic needs, which are food and water. Right now, we are experiencing a challenge, world challenge, related to producing enough food for the growing population. it's estimated that by 2050, we need to produce 100% more food.
We need to produce how much?
100% more food than we're currently producing right now. So I'm proud of the work that I'm doing to provide technology solutions that can help us feed the growing population. In addition, outside of work, I also do work in Zimbabwe with water projects. We do clean water projects.
In Zimbabwe with clean water projects?
Yes, and so I'm proud to be providing the most basic needs to help the growing population.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. What about you, Cathy?
I would say I'm proudest of being able to represent farmers for the last 15 years in multiple capacities. I've represented organic farmers, conventional farmers, GMO farmers, which I believe we can say are conventional farmers these days. And now I represent the companies that develop the seeds and other tools that the farmers are able to use. It is, we've got there's been a lot of conversation about outsourcing. Shame on us if we outsource our food supply in the United States.
If we outsource
our food supply because we didn't enable the farmers to produce the abundance, the yield, the nutritious and safe foods that they're currently providing to the country. And Victoria, I'd say my biggest regret, if I could finish up with the second question, is that we in agriculture have been so slow to actually pick up the microphone and talk about what we do and why we do it.
And talk about what we do
and why we do it.
That's a thank you so much. Here's an interesting and kind of an unusual question. How did you guys feel when Bill Nye changed his stance on GMOs, and what kind of impact did it have on your industry? Brian, did it have any impact on you?
That's a great question, and that's really recent news, like a couple weeks ago, maybe. It was nice to see him kind of come around. I haven't heard his official stance. I know he said he's going to revise a chapter in his book on GMO.
I heard he was going to revise a chapter, his book on GMOs.
It's just nice to see that, that's science at work. He had certain views on this. He picked up some new knowledge, and he's adjusting his view. And that, as a science communicator, that's a fairly well-known one. I mean, I remember watching Bill Nye the Science Guy when I was a kid. It's important to have people like him out there giving the right information to people that are listening.
Like him out there giving the right information to people that are listening. And I bet, Dan, you probably want to weigh in on this one too.
Yeah.
As a scientist yourself.
I'd love to, yeah. I appreciate Bill Nye's using the science to make an informed decision. I think that we've also experienced that here at South by Southwest, just interacting with people and sharing some of the information from a nutritional standpoint, from a farming standpoint, and from a science standpoint.
Sharing the information from a nutritional standpoint, a science standpoint, and what was the third one?
And from a farming standpoint. Just providing that information and allowing people to make their own informed decisions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Someone else asks, are you guys doing any current research, and how is it going? So anybody here doing any research?
I can answer that question as well, yeah. Yeah, I am doing research, yes. So I work as a biologist for Dow AgroSciences.
As a biologist for Dow AgroSciences.
Yes, and I currently work with corn plants. I work with a team of great scientists, and we're helping to develop seeds that have the latest technologies, trait technologies, and high-performing genetics. I know that's a pretty broad statement, but we're working on a lot of different things, and we're excited about what's coming.
All right, and they also a follow-up, second part of their question. What's one thing that you would like to say to all the quackery type folks who swear up and down that GMOs are the most dangerous things?
Well, I would just say that I think it's important that everybody do the research and understand the science, and then make their own decisions.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Second part? No? Okay.
Well, we could. I would just say if you might not have time to do the research, right? And the science can be a little tricky if you're not a biologist or a chemist or molecular biologist.
Can be a little tricky.
It can be a little tricky.
If you're not.
One of the reasons that we created GMO Answers was to help folks get straight talk, straight answers to their questions from independent experts, and I'm sitting next to three right here on this Reddit panel today. So if you have a question, any question, just come and join us at gmoanswers.com. Ask your question, and we'll make sure it gets into the hands of an independent expert so you can get an answer. And as Dan said, we're not trying to change minds, we're just trying to put the facts out there, and folks, of course, will make up their own decisions.
We're just trying to get the facts out there. People can make their own decisions. Here's an interesting question. What's keeping us from having a world filled with GMO miracle organisms? What's the biggest hurdle?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
What's keeping us from having a world filled with GMO miracle organisms? What's the biggest hurdle to having the golden rice and that sort of thing?
You want to start that one?
I think it's really that's a great question, and it's a complicated, a multifaceted answer. I don't think it's all that complicated. I think that we've got some challenges with the investment in agricultural research.
Okay, so we have some challenges.
We have challenges, right? So companies will, of course, work on products that at the end of the day will be profitable for them, that will be a tool that the farmers want to buy.
For them that farmers will want to buy.
So the plethora of possibilities is naturally narrowed if all the research is being if the research is easily funded by companies, and perhaps is a little difficult to come by for public sector researchers.
Difficult to come by for public sector researchers.
We've got challenges with government policies. And I think that's ubiquitous to agriculture. But if you have policies that are not supportive of research and the application of new tools, getting those tools into farmers around the world, into getting those tools into the hands of your country's farmers is difficult. And then lastly, we have the misinformation that is just proliferating in the digital space, online and across social media, where folks are being provided false images, right, and myths rather than facts. And of course, those folks, particularly in the developed world, are then raising concerns about the application of the technology in food and agriculture with their policymakers, their government officials, which impacts government policy and impacts the support for public research.
So it's like a 360 degree.
It is.
Got it. Thank you so much. I'm going to refresh the page and
Victoria,
see what...
I think there's something else, though, that we need to address in that area.
Okay, let me add that real quickly, Connie. Okay, I think there's something else we need to address.
And that's the education piece, both to the professional as well as to the consumer. As Cathy said, there is a lot of misunderstanding, but the misunderstanding, in my perspective, is because we haven't done the education. We haven't explained the science. We haven't explained all of the components as it relates to safety, the process. You know, when you look at introduction of some of the biotech crops.
When you look at the introduction of some of the biotech crops
into the food system. The process is so well controlled. Obviously, that takes a lot of time, but it's so well controlled. It's very clear, what are the benefits? If there's any concerns, there is a process to deal with that. But communicating all of this to, again, the health professionals, the medical community as a whole, not just those of us who do the education, we just haven't done as good a job as we should.
Okay, we just haven't done as good a job as we should. Thank you so much. Let's see what other questions have come in. All right. What is the biggest misconception about GMOs? Brian, you want to try tackling this?
Yeah, I got to pick from the list. I got to think on this a minute. Biggest misconception about GMOs. We've encountered several people. We've been working the booth here at South by Southwest. You get to the second level of questioning. You ask them, what do you think about GMOs? They say, well, I hear they're bad.
You ask them what they think about GMOs, and they say, well, I think they're bad.
Yeah, and so you go to the next level and just simply ask why. And I found a lot of people, they haven't thought that far yet. They don't know why. They haven't sought the information that deeply yet.
They
and
haven't.
So there's so much information out there. Like any subject on the internet, it's easy to keep searching until you find what you already agree with. And it's kind of hard to maybe open yourself up and take in some new thoughts, and maybe your perception of something wasn't quite what you thought it was before. We've been encountering that here in the booth and hopefully getting some good conversation with people. It's, from my farmer perspective, I'm just, let me think a minute. Trying to get people to understand why it is I plant GMOs on my farm, and sometimes why I don't. So we do, some of our crops are GMOs and some are not, and there's reasons we have for that from management, agronomic standpoints.
We have various reasons for that from, and what'd you say?
Agronomic management standpoint. It's just, I think like Cathy said, there's a lot of people out there, like on my little blog for my farm where I talk about the technology and the GMOs we use, it's hard for me to compete with a Food Babe or a Dr. Oz. It's, my one blog post isn't going to counteract a whole lot of what they can do. So
Babe, Dr. Oz, my little blog. Act what they do. Thank you. I was taught in school, that says this questioner, that GMOs are relatively new and thus there are not enough studies of sufficient length that can definitively conclude their safety because there are some long-term effects that we might not know of. How valid is that claim?
Well, so it depends on what your definition of new is. Genetic engineering started in 1996.
Okay, so genetic engineering started in 1996.
And from my standpoint, personally, I believe that GMOs are a mature technology now. I believe the question asked about how well they've been studied, and I'd just like to mention that they've been rigorously studied by a lot of different scientists, both in industry and academia. There's been thousands.
Both in what?
Both in industry and academia.
Sorry, the NASA people seem to be getting louder.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, and really, so there's been thousands of studies that demonstrate that there are no health risks in comparison of GMO crops to their conventional counterparts.
And then can people kind of find out more about that on GMOanswers.com?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a very quick ad. As a society, we want black and white answers. Science is not black and white. Science is constantly growing and evolving. And we have good science, as you just heard, to show the benefits as well as the safety of biotechnology. We just, again, I'll go back to my argument, we need to communicate that more consistently and in a better way, that consumers feel comfortable with our answer so they can make their decision.
Feel comfortable with our decisions so they can, with our
feel
answers.
Comfortable with,
Answers
so
they can make better decisions.
Right.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to refresh the page. You guys are doing great so far. Let's see what else has come in. All right. Okay, lots of great answers. What would you say to people who don't necessarily have problems with the technology behind GMOs, but are skeptical of the business practices of large biotech companies like Monsanto and the degree that they might wield influence over the crop supply? Who wants to tackle it?
I can do that.
Brian, you want to take that one?
Whoever wants to go first.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say that I think that my members, including Monsanto, DuPont Pioneer, Bayer, and BASF, Dow, Syngenta.
I'm sorry, so you mentioned Monsanto?
Monsanto, Bayer, Crop Science, BASF, Plant Science, Dow AgroScience, DuPont Pioneer, and Syngenta.
DuPont Pioneer and Syngenta, which is Syngenta.
That's right. They've all recognized, as I think other corporations in other industry sectors have, that for far too long, they didn't talk about what they did. They didn't talk about what GMOs were, how they were made, what the safety data said.
What GMOs were,
how they're made, what the safety data says. But a couple of years ago, they decided, you know what, we're going to have an open, transparent conversation in which we invite you to ask us anything. And if you take a look at some of the questions and answers on GMO Answers, you'll see that Monsanto, among probably principally Monsanto, has been hit with some really, really tough assertions. And experts from Monsanto have stood in and answered every one of those questions. These companies are not the companies they were 40 years ago.
Okay.
What company is in the United States?
These are not the company they were 40 years ago.
They're not the companies they were 10 years ago. They've committed to genetic engineering, which means reduced pesticide applications. That's a positive improvement forward.
That's a positive improvement. Thank you.
And I think their commitment to do better is pretty clear by the products they're researching and developing, and their willingness to talk about them.
And developing, let me get that, developing, whoa, I'm fine. And their willingness to talk about them. Thank you. Do you want to jump in, Connie?
I do. I'm based in St. Louis. Have lived in St. Louis all my life. So, of course, Monsanto is in the backyard. I have relatives who have worked and currently work for Monsanto.
Relatives who have worked and currently work for Monsanto.
And I also have done and do work with Monsanto. And I have to echo Cathy's statement. Their concern is at the highest level of consumers understanding and feeling comfortable with what they do. Again, consumers may choose to still not like biotech, but they are very definitely invested in how do we make the best products for our farmers, which then makes the best products for the consumer, and how do we be players in that arena?
We'd be
players in that arena. In other words, in that community. Monsanto is a very active community partner in St. Louis. They care about the people in the community.
Thank you.
And when you look at what they're doing now, they want to do the best for the people they serve.
Thank you. All right, let me save that answer. Did you want to jump in, Brian? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, what did you want to add?
On the farmer's view, I'm the guy that signs these technology use agreements, these contracts with companies like Monsanto when I buy seed from them.
So these technology use agreements with companies like Monsanto when I buy seeds from them?
So there's a lot of misconception about that. So one of the things I did on my blog was just go to my file cabinet in our office, scan a copy of my tech agreement.
So file cabinet in my office, scan a copy of a tech agreement.
And I put it up on my blog so anybody can read it for themselves. They can see exactly word for word what's in a Monsanto tech use agreement. And then I break it down line by line in a blog post of what I think that means to me as a farmer.
By line, I think it means to me as a farmer. And what's your blog? I can put a link to it.
Sure. My blog is at thefarmerslife.com.
Okay. Thefarmerslife.com.
Yep.
So let me pull up the link to that, so we'll add that, and that way people can go see your post.
Yeah, if you want to see that exact post, we can find our way there.
Where is it?
Look up, punch in Occupy Food Supply.
Okay. Is that?
That's the one right there.
Okay, cool. So let me copy the link to that and say, here's the link to the post. Okay.
One general misconception I'd say about business practices, people would say, if I buy seeds from Monsanto, I'm stuck buying seeds from Monsanto forever.
If I buy seeds from Monsanto, I'm stuck buying seeds from Monsanto forever.
And that is just patently not true. I've got, actually tomorrow, scheduled our first delivery of seed for spring 2015 is getting dropped off at our shop tomorrow, and it happens to be Monsanto products. I could call and cancel that order right now if I wanted to and plant something else.
I could call and cancel that right now and plant something else.
Yeah, so there's nothing that keeps me beholden to a single seed company once I buy product from them. I can buy whatever seeds I want from whoever I want to.
I can buy whatever seeds I want,
from whoever I want.
Whoever I want. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Really great, really thoughtful answers. Let's see what else has come in. That research, this is a follow-up response to you, Dan. This person says, that research sounds really impressive, and if there's anywhere I could read up more about it, I'd love to. I have another question for you, Dan. Your specific field is genetics, right? What did you do to get into that field? More specifically, what subjects, grades, experience did you need to get to where you are today?
Yeah, what were your grades, dude?
Yeah, we want to hear specifics. Like, did you coast by in history?
Well, so my educational background was in biology. But one thing I want to mention is that there are many different science-related jobs. We have at our company plant biologists, chemists, agronomists.
What, agronomists?
Yeah, there's a lot of different expertise that one can get. And I believe that STEM careers are very important.
That what is?
STEM-related careers are very important, not just for the agriculture industry, but in general.
Or not just for the agriculture industry, but in general.
Yeah. And so specifics, I've taken a lot of biology-related courses, biochemistry, plant molecular biology. For me, I have I think I already mentioned, but a bachelor's degree in biology from Indiana University, a master's degree in biology from Purdue University.
And biology from Indiana University. And then where'd you get your master's?
Master's degree from Purdue University.
Master's degree from Purdue?
Yes. And I actually started working as a forensic scientist with human DNA, and then recently made the transition to working for Dow AgroSciences with plant DNA. So there are a lot of different ways that you can apply science to develop solutions.
That's so interesting. What was your favorite subject when you were in school, besides biology? Like, I mean, you sure had to say English or something.
This is unrelated, but I did take a history of the Beatles course that I thought was very interesting.
It's a required course.
Yeah, but no, I'm passionate about biology, specifically life sciences. I was good at it, and it came natural to me, and I just really enjoyed it, and I believe that it's an important subject.
Thank you. Okay, cool. I'm going to refresh the page. We're in the home stretch, and you guys are doing a really awesome job fielding all these different questions. As you are all at South by Southwest and on GMO Answers to help communicate science and understanding to the public, what do you think works best? What is a line or discussion that you find not only interests others, but helps them to understand the science behind this technology? So have you found like Twitter, YouTube, meeting people face to face? What do you think is the best way to educate people? I think this is something all you guys can weigh in on. You want to start, Cathy?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think it's having the conversation. So certainly my favorite is in person, but today I feel like that's old school, right? Conversations on Twitter and Facebook and by text, right? Or that's the only way I talk to my 4 girls is by texting them, it seems. But we still have good conversations, and I think that is what is most helpful when folks who might be skeptical about GMOs see that here we are, the 4 of us, and moms, dads, young folks, old folks, different backgrounds we bring to our advocacy for the issue, for communication, education, science, STEM. Dan mentioned the key is the conversation and listening to folks' concerns, and then addressing their concerns as best you can.
Okay, what about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think that was very well said. I agree with what Cathy mentioned. I believe one thing that helps with the conversation is taking a topic that can be very technical and bringing it to a higher level of discussion.
Topic that is very technical and bringing it to what?
To a higher level discussion that's understandable for any backgrounds. But yes, I believe that utilizing social media and all of the different communication avenues that we have now is important as well, so that we can reach different demographics of people as well.
Reach different demographics of people as well. What about you, Connie? Do you really like YouTube? Do you really like giving talks?
You know, I think it's a ditto is the first answer. Clearly, as Cathy said, the in-person, where you can really get into that conversation, is so much more valuable, because this is a complicated topic. You know, we can make it simple, but it has so many layers, so we have to kind of walk people through the layer. With that said, we can't, as Cathy said, ignore all the modes of communication right now. I guess our challenge is to build our messages on each other so we create the full picture once we've built each message. Mm-hmm. But it's an opportunity, you know, is how I look at it, to talk about something that in my mind can really be fun. Because I think food and science is really fun. We just have to remember that when we start talking and don't slip into our jargon brains.
Do not slip into our jargon brains. Got it. Thank you. And what about you, Brian?
Yeah, just the way you approach your messaging. I just recently got the chance to be elected to the board of directors for Ag Chat Foundation.
Elected to the board of directors for
Ag Chat, one word, yeah. And that's an organization that its goal is to empower farmers to tell their stories, whether it's in person, on social media, talking to print media, whatever.
On social media, talking to print media, whatever.
And here today at GMO Answers in South by Southwest, we're really focusing on the in-person part of it. And like Connie said, there's a lot of value to that. I can get in a lot deeper conversation with somebody here than I can in 140 characters on Twitter. It's especially when we're, I kind of geek out on agronomy and stuff like that as a farmer. It's hard to put everything that's in my brain into a tweet. So I love Twitter. I use it all the time, and Instagram and Facebook, all that stuff. But here in person, it's really interesting to talk to people. I mean, we have a little tiny cornfield and a cotton field here in the booth here in the middle of South by Southwest. So people are coming around the corner and they're like, what is that? And they come up and take a selfie with the corn and the cotton plants, and then we can kind of start talking to them that way and begin a conversation.
And take a selfie. The mini cornfield, and then we can have a conversation. Thank you. All right, great. I'm just going to refresh and see if we can get to one or two more questions before we run out of time. All right, let's see. Here's an interesting question. How do you guys feel about all the hippies out there complaining about how GMOs are poison? And are those dweebs actually costing people lives in obstructionism, or are they just a petty annoyance? Are they people that you want to engage in a dialogue with, or, how do you feel about people who maybe don't want to necessarily engage in a dialogue and just are, no, and they're not willing to talk about it? Who wants to start?
Yeah, who wants to start?
You can start.
Connie?
You don't want to start? I think it's important for us to recognize we all have our own beliefs, and we have the right to those beliefs. As long as someone is willing to listen, if they then choose to not believe, that's their right, and I'm okay with that.
Then that's their right to not.
I think the important thing is we all have to listen, and that goes for us too. We have to hear their concerns, understand their concerns, and then see if there's any common ground.
Listen.
But the bottom line is, we all will believe what we're comfortable with.
Thank you. Did you want to jump in, or okay, we're good?
I just have one comment to add just to that.
Oh, okay. Let me add that, Dan. Yep.
I think it's good that people are interested and that they want to have the conversation. But being from a science background, I just encourage people to really try and learn the science and understand the science behind it.
I tend to encourage people to learn the science behind it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. All right. Okay, I think our last question is a little bit weird. I think we've already kind of tackled it, but how much blame do you think that belongs to companies like Monsanto for downgrading the name of GMO crops in public opinion? We kind of talked about how they're changing the dialogue by being more open about it, right? So maybe we could say, we responded to that in a different question.
Sorry, Victoria, what was the question?
They said, how much blame do you think belongs to companies like Monsanto for downgrading the name of GMO crops in public opinion? But I think we already talked about how they're trying to open up that dialogue. So by being secretive at first, that maybe confused people, but now that people are trying to be more open, that's really, we're trying to change that tone of that dialogue, right?
I would just say that the seed developers are partly to blame, but we're all responsible.
That we're all responsible?
Everyone in the food supply chain is responsible. The medical profession, healthcare profession is responsible. I think our political leaders are responsible. I mentioned the other day to someone that it took an outbreak of measles across this country for the head of the CDC and the president to speak out and say, get your kids vaccinated. Here we have this pretty heated debate on the safety of GMOs across this country. Mm-hmm. And yet there are very few. USDA Secretary Vilsack is probably foremost in my mind. Very
US
few who
Secretary of State.
Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Vilsack, who brings his courage to this conversation and is willing to talk about the evidence and the facts. And he's like me, even more so, as he's the Secretary of USDA, he's for all of agriculture.
He's for all of agriculture.
He is for all of agriculture, and yet he's not taking any of this misinformation, and he bounces it right back. We need more leaders who are willing to recognize what the protracted debate on this issue is doing to consumers, everyday moms and dads, folks who are trying to feed their families while juggling soccer schedules and homework, right? What it's doing to their confidence in the safety of the food supply.
Soccer schedules, what it's doing, their confidence in the food supply. And you meant, and just to clarify real quickly, just to make sure I got this right, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep, Tom Vilsack. Yep.
Thank you.
So it's no one. You can't lay the blame at the feet of any one sector in this conversation. It's all of us. We're all to blame. And I'm really excited that increasingly we're all getting into that conversation.
Thank you. All right, great. I'm just going to refresh the page and see if there's anything we haven't responded to yet. But, we've gotten to a lot of questions in the time that we've had together. And I think you guys have done a really good job of responding to questions as they come in. All right, let's see. Yeah, it looks like we've answered everything, guys. So what would you want to say to thank people for taking the time to stop by today? We should also put the link to GMO Answers. How do you guys want to wrap things up in your own words? What do you want to say, Brian?
Sure, and definitely thanks to the people stopping by. I've been kind of surprised when I worked the booth all day yesterday. People are thanking us for being here in person, whether they agree with us or not. Just we're being upfront and honest with people and telling people why it is we do what we do, and they really do seem to appreciate that.
Appreciate us being upfront and honest with them, and they really appreciate that. That's really nice. What about you, Connie? What would you like to say in closing?
First thing I'd like to say is thank you for being the vehicle for getting this information out there. That's a huge part of this challenge, and I greatly appreciate that. And obviously the opportunity to be here at South by Southwest to talk to people about food, nutrition, how to get, what's our access. It's a topic that I could talk forever about, and I'm really looking forward to carrying on the conversation.
About food, nutrition, and access. It's a topic I could talk forever about, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. What about you, Dan?
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity. And I just, in closing, would like to say that I'm really excited about the future of agriculture. And I think that science and technology are going to play a very important role. So yes, thanks again.
Very important role. And what about you, Cathy?
I'd say thanks to Reddit. Victoria, thanks so much for getting our words down. I want to thank our experts today. Farmer, dietitian, scientists who take time out of their busy day job schedules because they feel it's important that folks understand what this means to them, what this means to our society. So thanks the three of you very much. And if you have any questions, come visit us at gmoanswers.com. We'd love to stay engaged with you following the conclusion of this Reddit, of the AMA.
We'd love for you to continue the conversation after this AMA. All right, great. I'm going to add the link to gmoanswers.com. Make sure that hyperlink's out. Thank you all so much.
Thanks very
much. It's been an absolute pleasure.